I am I'm a little surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of flabbergasted. This is one of those situations where every single time, every single time I say, yeah, most likely we're not going to get an answer until probably mid-February. We're not going to be able to do anything for another few weeks. We're probably not going to get answers, and this is going to get dragged on for a little bit. And it's not about me trying to be negative. It was more about just trying to be a realist about the situation, saying, how long is this going to take? How long is this going to be satisfied? And I figured that eventually, Wizard of the Coast would acquiesce with a lot of things. I was not expecting this, and I was not expecting this as quickly. So I've gone online. Everyone else has gone online. I don't know who I'm gonna end up watching this. If I get anybody watching this, it'll be kind of a miracle. Um, but yeah, so let's take a look here. I'm a little flabbergasted by this whole thing. First of all, I learned about it from Discord. They made the post, and by then it was about 20 minutes, and now it's everywhere. Everyone's exploded. No one is talking about anything else, and I believe this was absolutely calculated, especially for a Friday, because they know they can surf whatever goodwill they have, and now it's going to be the test on whether or not the language changes, like whether or not the environment, the community, whether or not the narrative, that's the word I'm looking for, the narrative changes. So they made this post over the past few weeks, blah blah blah. They said they wouldn't get an announcement until the end of the month. And they would keep the survey open until the 3rd, and that didn't happen. And they have these numbers here, which will show up in the other file. But we look here, and when you give us feedback, we take it seriously. Already more than 15,000 people have filled out the survey. So it was 10,000 last time. It's 15,000 now. So we know a lot of people have done it. Oops, sorry. 88% do not want to publish tabletop under 1.2. We were one of those. 90% would have to change some aspect of their business to accommodate 1.2. We were kind of on the fence on that. I just wouldn't publish everything under 1.2. I would still use other licenses or ORC. 89% are dissatisfied with the authorizing OGL 1.0A. I'm surprised that it's 89%. I thought it would be 95%. 86% are dissatisfied with the draft VTT policy. That also being said, the VTT policy did not have a lot of legalese, so it's not particularly. And we knew it was like an alpha draft. It was never going to be big. 62% are satisfied with including system reference document in the Creative Commons, and the majority of those who were dissatisfied asked for more SRD content in the Creative Commons. Yeah, that's a big thing. The important thing to note here is that Creative Commons right now is just the basics. If they dump the SRD into Creative Commons, some people actually have said that if they dump the entire 5.1 into Creative Commons, then the OGL itself kind of becomes irrelevant, which I find very interesting. Because if they do, then you don't have to do anything. Like if they dump the whole thing into Creative Commons, they have absolutely no ownership over anything. So these live survey results are clear. You want OGL 1.0 to, you want irrevocability, and you like Creative Commons. And the feedback such high volume, we're acting now. So this is them saying we don't need to wait until February 3rd. We're acting now. We are leaving OGL 1.0 in place as is, untouched. Now, it should be important. Some people are saying, well, they could revoke it later in the future. I think if they make a statement and saying we are making the declarative statement now that 1.0A is irrevocable, even though they don't add that word to the OGL, because the issue is that if they put it into the OGL, like they would actually have to revise the OGL to add the word irrevocable. So the fact that they're leaving a 1.0 in place, they say, but you can still revoke it because the word, but they can add an amendment. They can put something on the internet now and say, we believe 1.0A is irrevocable. They don't need to put that into any policy. They can just say it, and that's all they need to do, and that becomes a security. Because if someone else says no, we're revoking it, they can say no, your own company said it's not. So which means there's nothing you can do. We're also making the entire 5.1 available under Creative Commons license. That's probably the biggest one. That's huge. And they say you choose which you prefer. So you can use the 1.0A. You can use Creative Commons, which means you don't have to use anything. And you choose which you prefer to use. And at that point, this is one of those situations where will they even bother with 1.2? They'll probably just put out a virtual tabletop policy or something. But at one point, what teeth does 1.2 have at all? The only thing now is that if they decide to create a GSL like 4th edition to say, you know, here are your options. You can go with 1.0A and continue doing that. Nothing changes. You can use Creative Commons to copy paste anything you want into the file structure, and that's fine. The third option is our new game system license, and I'll bet you $50 that this is what's going to offer. They're going to offer this beautiful, beautiful little stamp that you can put on your book saying that you're an authorized third-party 5th edition product, which is what I recommend. I didn't want the creator ampersand. I wanted something that actually said D&D or Dungeons and Dragons on it, which is what they did with 4th edition. And then give us the capability of selling on the D&D Beyond marketplace. And they can say, absolutely, that you must be 1.2 compliant if you want to sell in our marketplace. And they have a gigantic marketplace. It's massive. If you want to buy first-party official D&D, you can only buy it from D&D Beyond. So a lot of people go there. And so if you have to be 1.2 compliant to go there, and there are no, and at that point, the only question is whether or not they say, if you're 1.2, you can't be 1.0A. But even if they say that, it doesn't matter because we can just use Creative Commons. Like they can't create that system of restrictions. So it's going to be very interesting if they want to even bother with 1.2, and if they do, it's got to be, it has to be all carrot at this point. Like there can't be any stick in 1.2. It can't be because everything says it is. Because if they make it restrictive, no one will touch it. Simple as that. So they have to be carrot. The whole thing has to be carrot, and that's what I said in my survey. You have to stop with all the carrot, replace it with all stop the stick, replace it with all carrot, and go on from there. This Creative Commons license makes the content available to use. We don't control the license. I cannot alter or revoke it. It's open and irrevocable in a way that doesn't require you to take our word for it. That is true. And it's open just means there's no need for a VTT policy. Placing SRD under Creative Commons license is a one-way door. There's no going back. Like, that's insane. We wanted to protect the D&D. This is them saying, we need to claw back. Like, the announcement came from Paizo that they sold out of their entire Pathfinder 2nd edition stock, that they went through, I think, was it 8 months of Paizo stock? That being said, Pathfinder is still a long ways of clawing back a good market share. But doing this is them basically dropping this bombshell as a way of trying to cut the legs out of these competing systems. This is the biggest one. Like we said, I was even saying, this is the only thing that they could do to kind of cut the foundations of Black Flag, Orc, and all the other variant systems, is to do something completely the opposite, like the extreme opposite of all this. And then there's the 5.1. The 5.1, we know what the 5.1 is. It's a colossal document. It's massive, and we know it is. It's hundreds of pages, which is, if they're dumping all of this, all 400 pages, I mean, that's crazy. They didn't do this with 4th edition or 3rd edition. Like, this is the biggest push ever. And then Kyle Brink, thanks to always supporting your throat. So this is the calculated move on Wizards of the Coast part. It is the best option that they have to moving forward as a way of trying to pull their audience back. Because if they just say, we're no longer going to do it, we've canceled this project, that'll appease some people, but a lot of people say damage is done. By going further than a lot of people thought they would, it means that the right people are making decisions. Like, it creates that type of positive buzz. So I'm not going to stay too long in this because I was actually about to record a completely different video about other things, which is going to be an interesting update now. And I'll state that this is good. we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But more importantly, um, I think it's really important that we 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 show that this is what they need to do. So people are saying, anyone who's saying that this is not enough or it's too late, we're done with you, I think that's really unhealthy. I think there's a situation where, regardless of whether or not you want to still support 5e, I think it's important that we show Wizards of the Coast that this is the direction that they should be going, that this is the correct course of action. This is what they need to do to course correct. So I think it's important that we try to find a way of clamping down on the toxicity, and the people that are calling for boycotts for anyone that even supports uh, WotC, even in a tangential way. Like people were calling out for boycotts of even DM's Guild. And I'm hoping that this puts those people, I'm not part of DM's Guild, but puts those people at ease that they're not going to get targeted. Unfortunately, there's definitely going to be people that are still going to be very toxic that won't be satisfied until Hasbro files for bankruptcy. And like I said, I made a post 2 weeks ago, or a week, oh God, only a week ago, where I said I could see us supporting 1.2, and there was some backlash, not a lot of backlash, and we retracted, but we didn't retract because of pressure from the few people that were angry. It was more for solidarity. I knew that other people were being affected. Deus Machina wasn't, but other people were, and I've tried to make an effort to try to sympathize for other people. So I decided that, you know what, it doesn't affect us as badly, but affects a lot of other people. So we are going to do that. We are going to support these other people by not signing on. This is going to be the big test now. I think a lot of people in my segment that rely on the D&D, like the D&D whale, like we're like we're like remoras. We're basically working off of that giant beast, that we can go back to that system without repercussions, right? Now, Black Flag is still going to probably move forward. They're not going to stop just because of this announcement. Orc is still going to move forward, but the people that wanted to sign on to Orc so they can try to create more D&D content now kind of don't need to. And I think this was their way of trying to, like I said, cut the legs out of Orc, cut the legs out of Black Flag, and cut the legs out of people that were pursuing legal action. They're like, they like basically almost any legal action at this point is kind of going moot. So now the only thing is the only remaining fight is what's going to happen with virtual tabletops, whether or not they're going to maintain their freedom, and now could be an arms race. The best case scenario is it's an arms race where a D&D's official tabletop raises the bar, and then all the other ones have to raise their bar if they want to compete. But I imagine that once we get to 1.2, if there is going to be a 1.2, maybe it'll be called a 1.3, they're going to, if they're smart, if they're as smart as this document points out to be, then their next move is to have an updated OGL that's entirely carrot. Like it's entirely carrot. Like here are, like, if you want to publish through D&D Beyond, here are the things you can get. Will there be restrictions? Hopefully they could say, for example, and this is them being a little restrictive. They can say, if you want to publish through D&D Beyond, you can put this cool little banner. They can't stop you from publishing for other systems. They're not going to be able to stop you from publishing. They might say, I can't see them asking for exclusivity by saying, if you publish on D&D Beyond, this book can't be published on another format. They might. It's kind of a dumb thing to do. They also may say that if you want, you can create your content. If you're a 1.2, you could put your content on our virtual tabletop. That would be insane if they said that. Like, that's a huge carrot. Like the big carrots are the collaborator badge, selling on D&D Beyond, allowing our content VTT. And they could create a license that allows you to do that, and all you need to be is under this 1.2. And they don't have to say, we want exclusivity. you can't go, this book cannot be on a competing virtual tabletop. Because at my point, I'm looking at like, it's one of those situations where, yeah, I appreciate being on these, but if this virtual tabletop grows and gets to the size that it could potentially be, like if I had resources and they said you can be on the D&D official tabletop, I would be hard pressed not to dive into that. Once again, depending entirely on what this thing is. If there's carrot but there's still a lot of stick, if they're saying you can't publish for another system, you can't publish on things under the 1.0a, you can't publish under Roll20, you can't publish on DriveThruRPG, I'm like, well, no, we're done. Because I like your marketplace, but I'm not going to abandon the foundations that I put forward. So it's going to be interesting. And I said, if Kyle is as smart as he seems to be, given this announcement, if he's smart, they'll put out a 1.2 that'll just be all carrot and will be a license that people will look at and go, why didn't you open the conversation with this? Like I said, D&D could have completely conquered this marketplace in a way we've never seen before if at the end of December they announced all of this before the leak and said, hey, this is what we're doing and we're doing this, and everyone champions them, and they never have that downward spiral. Anyway, I've been up for 15 minutes. I didn't want to make this too long. I just want to get out my comments. If you're still against Wizards of the Coast by this point, I would really like to know why. I mean, people will say it's too much, they're unforgiving. I think everyone deserves forgiveness at some point. WotC didn't steal my baby, so I don't have that level of hatred other people have. And I said in previous videos, which have been unliked by some people, that I refuse to be toxic. Regardless of how angry I am, I refuse to be toxic. And I am willing, once again, to offer an olive branch and hopefully create a situation where we can heal and move forward. I am for repairing this marketplace, repairing this industry. I want this market to go on, and I want to have a company that can go on. Like this, for me, this was the best news we could have gotten because I did not think they would go this far. But anyway, guys, I know not a lot of people went on. I went live instead of doing a pre-recorded video just because I wanted to get it out now. I'm doing another video about the 5.75 rule set that I'm working on. Will we still work on it? I think it's still fun. I think it's a fun project. I guess, like I said at the beginning, there might be a situation where we don't even pursue it. But I kind of like the idea of playing around with these alt rules. I mean, Monty Cook came out with Unearthed Arcana, and or is it Arcana Unearthed? One of those, like when he came out with a variant 3.5 or 3.0 rule set on his own. And some people really loved it. It was just an alternate way of looking at things. And I wouldn't mind, just as a side project, producing something like that. We also have another announcement coming up soon regarding the company. Good news, not bad news, very, very good news. Basically about our growth and our expansion. And I was worried about this expansion at this point in time. I am hopefully optimistic that that we can now move forward with our plans. I did make a post about asking people how many people actually play for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, considering this report from Paizo that they had sold so much, and I had one person say out of like 10. So I'm still thinking that the D&D market's pretty much solid. So it's going to be very interesting going forward. But anyway, guys, thanks so much. This has been Chris from Deus Ex Machina. By the way, what do you think of this whole thing? This is, like I said, I'm not doing the whole matting out thing. I did a blurring the screen again. It's very good. The other thing, obviously, you may notice is that I'm staring at the camera. You say, hey, I thought you had autism, and you said you couldn't stare at the camera. Yeah, I'm using the creepy NVIDIA eye thing. If this is really annoying and you would rather me just stare off camera all the time, let me know in the comments, because my next video will have the same thing. All right, guys, bye. Also, and you always get a few seconds. If I stop now, it always cuts off the last few seconds. So it's one of those situations where I have to stare awkwardly for a few seconds until the buffer catches up. Otherwise, it cuts off the last end of my sentence.